I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, April 10th, Easter week, and Christ is risen, y'all, for 4/10/2020, April 10th, 2020. And, I'm going to frame the Wuhan China COVID-19 virus as really a fight between good and evil. President Trump versus Microsoft founder Bill Gates. President Trump, man of the people. He is, they want to cut him out of these. They want to stop carrying the presidential briefings that are every day for the coronavirus, the biggest pandemic in, ever. Well, maybe not as big as the Spanish flu, but it's had more dismal financial effects than anything ever. You have Donald Trump, who's at all these meetings, taking questions from the hostile, what to tell you apart, make you look bad, mainstream legacy media, the propaganda. And you have him out on Thursday talking about how he's ordering millions of doses of hydroxychloroquine. And it goes well with a Z-Pack and zinc. He's trying to cure you, even though the governor of New York is still restricting its use only to hospitals. And it's had fabulous, fabulous results. The mainstream media is lying about this. I mean, I watched one of the shows, I think it was Fox, and they had one mainstream outlet, the other saying things like it wasn't effective, it's only anecdotal evidence, that it wasn't real science, that, you had bad effects, you could die, I could kill you, you could die, the bad effect, you could die. Lie, 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 lie. Listen, I source things well, especially something this important. There's this top-notch infectious disease doctor in France that's doing a study along with Stanford University. They had 40 people, then 80 people, 78 of 80 people were cured. Now that the study is 1,000, there are also other scientists producing fantastic results for this in terms of the effectiveness of hydroxychloroquine or the side effects. There's a doctor in LA, a top rheumatologist, a top doctor that treats lupus patients. He has 2,000 patients on this drug. He says, listen, for a 6-day dose, that's what it takes, 6 days, 200 milligrams morning and night. The side effects would be nil, his words. I mean, the mainstream media wants you dead. They want this to look worse than what it is. Listen, this is a problem. That is no doubt. But the reaction is economy killing over the top, even to the point where there's a New York Times reporter saying, whoa, I mean, the economy, this tanking the economy caused far more problems than this virus ever did. And a lot of people think the same thing. So you have Mr. America First, man of the people, Donald Trump, who shut off China within the first 10 days of this thing, shut off Europe. He's mobilized FEMA, mobilized all these doctors, all this stuff. He's sending supplies, whether you are a red state or a blue state, he is sending help and supplies. California, New York, Michigan. He's sending stuff all over the place. He's got a command and control center that's unbelievable. This is an unbelievable response to this. And no, I'm not a Republican. But I do know when somebody's doing a good job and when they're not. And the mainstream media wants you to think that what he's pushing, hydroxychloroquine, which is basically the drug that most thousands of doctors in a poll said they were going to use to treat this, that the side effects are nil according to some of the top doctors, and the results are fantastic according to something way more than anecdotal evidence. Scientific evidence says it works. If you get this virus, demand this treatment, hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and a Z-Pack. Demand it. The downside is nil. So then you have Donald Trump, who came out at this press conference on Thursday. He's out every day. And he says he's going to order millions of doses. On the other side, you have Bill Gates, who I think is pure evil. I mean, this is a guy that couldn't stop a virus in his Microsoft software, yet he wants to tell you he can stop the virus with his vaccine. And here's Bill Gates at the crossroads of digital Rubicon says mass gatherings may not return without global vaccine. You talk about this as a globalist. This is the guy that loves the Georgia Guidestones, and his favorite part is the part where it says the earth should be 500 million people and no more, not 7 billion. So this giant human conditioning behavior modification program. I mean, why do you need a FEMA camp if you can keep people scared to death in their homes? You can stop church gatherings. You can stop protests. You can stop all kinds of stuff. And listen, there is also all kinds of evidence that, Dr. Fauci, George Soros, Bill Gates, the Gates Foundation, this other Dr. Bricks or whatever her name is, that all have ties together, all have ties to the vaccine answer, which that's what Paul Craig Roberts says. Is the CDC is really just a vaccine manufacturing organization. So you have a man of the people on one side, Donald Trump, and on the other side you have people like Bill Gates, a globalist, a new world order, somebody that we could put markers in this vaccine to show who's had the vaccine or not. So we could control the population and control people. I mean, this is some pure evil, folks. That you can't go to church, you can't be around any mass gathering unless you have Bill Gates' vaccine. Too bad he couldn't invent a vaccine for his Microsoft products that would stop viruses. But listen, folks, no matter what you think about whether this is a bioweapon, and there's a lot of evidence that says it is. Now the Epoch Times is laying out a clear case it's a bioweapon. Other people have laid out clear cases that this is far more than just a simple virus that started in some wet market in China. But it did start in China. And the damage it's caused is unbelievable. And this is why the Fed is absolutely gone wild. The Fed has gone wild. They know there's something really wrong and things are really bad for them to act this way, this fact. And now we're talking the Federal Reserve. They takes an additional action to provide up to $2.3 trillion in loans to support the economy. Now, are they going to extend their balance sheet? How much more? It's $5.9 trillion. Are the loans going to add to the balance sheet over $8 trillion? And that's just the start. I heard, Powell, Chairman Powell, say that this is just, there's going to be more coming. And then you take a look at what they're doing. I mean, Federal Reserve, according to the Fed, many are going to get money, Paycheck Protection Program, more their financial institutions are going to get money for this, help the state and local governments, small and medium businesses, aka Main Street Lending Program. They're buying bonds. They're buying high interest rate debt. They're buying junk. They're buying everything. I mean, the Fed is going to float the entire, taking over the bond market, supposedly. I mean, is there no end to what they're going to do? And the answer is no, there's not. If you look here, you heard Craig Hemke talk about how Neil Kashkari, the Fed president in Minnesota, say that they have unlimited money printing ability, basically, at the Federal Reserve. Instead of him, having somebody come out and taking him to the woodshed. No. Oh no, we had Fed Chair Powell tell us the world there's really no limit on what the Fed can do. Powell, globally, inflation is below target. He's not worried about that. He says it's not our first order of concern for us. They're not worried about inflation. What they are worried about is they're worried about defaults. They're worried about debt destruction. That's people saying, I'm not paying, I'm out. You just had AMC theaters basically close down all their theaters, lay off their more than 20,000 employees and stop making debt payments. They stopped making lease payments. Boom, fired everybody, AMC's theaters. And this is what's happening over and over again, folks. You have businesses that are never going to open up. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't. There's not enough Fed money to open back up every large, small, and medium business. There's just not. And here we have this little tidbit. Coronavirus is the largest insolvency event in history, and really it's the reaction to it. This warns a former Goldman Sachs fund manager, it's Raoul Pal, pivots hard to Bitcoin, gold, and cash. Paul's portfolio, 25% Bitcoin, 25% gold, 25% cash and 25% trading opportunities, like Amazon or UPS or FedEx or, this is a trading opportunity to try to weather a deeper equity route. Have you noticed that 25 Bitcoin, 25 gold, 25 cash, 25 trading opportunities? Do you notice that there's no bonds there? No bond debt in his portfolio. This is a former Goldman guy. This guy's actually was a pretty well quoted person back in the day. You think it might be because of things like this? The University of Michigan consumer sentiment crashes by most ever. Just look at this chart. So everything's cool. Yeah, we've had some problems. We've had some problems. We've had problems. You go boom, a big problem. That's what it looks like on a chart going back all the way back. And if you look here, it goes back to 1980 to 1984. I mean, you look at this all the way up here to present day, and bam, straight down. This is unparalleled, folks. I mean, you take a look at the most debt, the biggest crash of confidence, the most unemployment is going to far exceed the 25 million, 24.9 million in the Great Depression. And then you understand why people are calling this the Greater Depression. And I think people are being lulled into this false sense of, it's going to be a V-shaped recovery. It's going to be a U-shaped recovery. We'll be back to normal no matter what. Remember what Bull Pony said. This is a new era of time. This is going to be new, folks. This is biblical. And he thinks after the month of April, which I think this is going to be his biggest call, Bull Pony. Because I told him this on the phone the other day. Let me tell you what your biggest call. Not the top, not the gold, not the Bitcoin, not yet. Your call, which he says was divinely inspired, that this is going to be a new era of time. April is going to be, bam, that's going to be the demarcation line. That's when everything changed. Like Black Monday in 1929, even though it took a couple of years later, everybody has that was the point that everything changed. Well, I think April is going to be the point that everything changed. I think Bo is going to be, as I've said in the past, he's going to be fabulously right, which is why I've been putting him on all this time. He's made a lot of good calls, too. Has he had some misses? Sure, yes, of course. Everybody has misses. Nobody's omnipotent, but Bo's been right a lot. And he's certainly right on these series of calls since February and March. He's made calls, and this thing about the April call is going to be a new era of time. Here we go. More on the new era of time and more what it's going to look like. Americans not making their mortgage payments soar by more than 1,000% in a month. I mean, they were looking at one of the best spring buying seasons for homeowners in years with the best rates ever. And all of a sudden, bam, nope. Going to be one of the worst. That changed in a month. And then here we have Moody's and Analytics says as much as 30% of homeowners, 30%, 15 million households could stop paying their mortgage if the U.S. economy remains closed through midsummer. Well, what if it stays partially closed? I mean, maybe it's not 30%. Maybe it's 15%. Maybe it's not, 15 million. Maybe it's 7 or 8 million. I mean, is that enough to make a lot of people insolvent? The people holding those debts can the Fed print money for every single thing under the sun? And what's the downside for that? I have this feeling the Fed can't fix it all. And they've been doing it since 2009 when they started QE1. Of course, add in all the other things to this cartoon show we call economy, this Ponzi scheme. QE1, QE2, Operation Twist, all the criminality that has been charged and pled guilty to, LIBOR, Forex, gold, silver, manipulation, you name it, everybody's pleaded guilty to it. It's just part of the con, the scam, the secret money. It goes on. So we're going to start a whole new another 10 years of this? Really? And now it's gone into overdrive. It's gone into hyperdrive now. And so if you take a look at this, just how bad is it going to get, says this headline on Zero Hedge. JP Morgan halts, take this in, folks. JP Morgan halts all non-government, government ain't going to back it up. We ain't going to loan it. All non-government guaranteed small business loans, small business is going to be devastated. Holy cow. And this is B of A, Citi, Wells Fargo. Here comes. I'm going to just show you. I'm going to roll up the you know the stopper phrase here for you. B of A, Citi, Wells Fargo to follow just as quietly in J.P. Morgan's footsteps and halt loans to small businesses across America due to fears of a default tsunami. A default tsunami. That's what they're afraid of. Due to fears of a default tsunami. This is what Powell is afraid of, Jerome Powell. This is what Neil Kashkarian, president of the Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, Neil Kashkarian. This is what they're afraid of. They're afraid of, you talk about deflation. What is deflation? Debt destruction. I'm not paying you. Sorry, like the AMC theaters. We're done. Bye-bye. Poof. We're bankrupt. We're not paying. But debt's no good. Remember, debt is an asset. We've been told, debt is money, Federal Reserve note, and debt is an asset. We're going to find out that is a complete bold-faced lie. Debt is not an asset. When people stop making their bond payments, people stop making their debt payments, people stop making their lease payments, which is a debt, that's debt destruction. That's deflation. That's why Jerome Powell is worried about, I'm not worried about inflation right now. Oh, he's going to be. They don't want the whole economy to deflate into a black hole of nothingness, which is what atheists believe in, a black hole of nothingness. And then you add in this whole thing with China and that this thing came from China, just like the president said. That's why he was calling it the China virus. Listen, I'm not backing down on this. It's xenophobic. I'm not going to be told. I'm not going to be browbeaten into submitting under the idea that, well, what you're saying is hateful. Oh, no. You're not going to pull that on me. No, stop. This virus has a lot of people pointing to the idea that it was a bioweapon that accidentally, or maybe, on purpose. I can't imagine they want to do that and crash the whole economy, but let's say accidentally escaped, and then they tried to cover it up, and they should have told us in November. That's what this lawsuit that small businesses says. They're saying they're suing China, the coronavirus response. They said they knew about it in November, and they said they covered it up. And California small businesses are seeking $8 trillion in damages. Is this going to work? Maybe not. I mean, this is a foreign country. This is China. There's all kinds of rules how you can sue a foreign government. I don't know if it'll work. But add this to the growing list of people who want China to pay for the Wuhan COVID-19 virus. And what this is, for sure, you can count on this. This is a 100% public relations disaster for China. You remember how I've been, doing this for a couple of years about how China's a dictator for life, totalitarian government, no voting, no voting in the sense that you can vote for, somebody other than one guy. Your social credit scoring, concentration camps, persecution of Christians. If you say something about the Xi Jinping or something negative about the economy, you can end up in jail or just disappear forever. Mary Barr, president of General Motors, and all you other idiot corporate executives, you ignored this risk. And everything was great as long as money was flowing and China was growing and everything was cool, but you ignored the risk of doing business with a totalitarian communist regime. Is that where you want to be building Chevys, Mary Barra? Do you think people are going to be buying products just like, chiclets from China if they know they're imprisoning and putting people in concentration camps and murdering them? And, how China got started was that, 42 million people died? Tiananmen Square, 10,000 people died. Just ignore that. Ignore the risks. Could you imagine if the U.S. government murdered 10,000 people in the Washington Mall? But somehow China was, those Chinese, it's okay. They have a way of doing something different. They're really good. The red Chinese people, they're really, listen, and let me tell you something. This isn't the Chinese. This is the government. It's the same thing with the Catholics. The Catholics, to me, are great. Catholic religion is fine. It's the Pope. But the Chinese government, this is a problem. And this is China is going to be forever changed. Do you think with this public relations disaster, and then there's all kinds of awful things they did. They put live people, supposedly, this is reportedly, in body bags. They welded the doors on apartments of people who were suspected of having the coronavirus. They did awful, horrible. Any doctors that spoke out either died or disappeared. When they were trying to blow the whistle on this. I mean, the World Health Organization, which Donald Trump wants to fund, you go, Donald Trump. Because they covered it up for China. Everything's China-centric. I mean, you have our own media that's China-centric. Well, mainly because they're doing business with China. You have our universities who are also doing business with China. This is a 100% disaster for China, public relations-wise, even if nobody gets a penny out of them. A disaster. I mean, Marsha Blackburn, I told you this last week, wants China to cut our debt. We have another bill. People want to cut the debt. We have senators in Congress, in that Senate, that want to bring jobs back to America because they know there's going to be mass layoffs. It's going to take a while to be able to bring those jobs back. But we're looking at something like 42% unemployment, according to the Federal Reserve president of St. Louis. What does that look like? Is AMC Theaters ever going to open back up again? Probably not. How long will this unemployment last? I don't know, through September, October, maybe? How many rounds are they going to keep giving people money where there are no jobs? I don't know. How long can that last for? I don't know. How long can the Fed keep buying sour debt and keep the repo market open and lend money to banks and small businesses and forgive all kinds of loans? They're not going to get all this money back. How big can their balance sheet grow? 20 trillion, 10 trillion, 15 trillion? At some point, something's going to give. And we're at the beginning of this. We're just at the beginning of it. Some positive news, and this is on Laura Ingraham. When I first saw she was going to be interviewing William Barr, I thought, I bet she doesn't ask Barr about the coup plotters. I was wrong. She did. And this offers some hope. Listen, I've thrown in the towel. I've long said that, listen, Trump's got to prosecute these people. He's got to win this battle. Otherwise, his family will be, persecuted, prosecuted, jailed, bankrupted, by the deep state, by the globalists. I mean, his family is going to suffer and possibly be killed off because of these. And that's not a far crazy thing. Look at all the body count following the Clintons. I mean, I've always thought that, but the deep state is deep. And here is William Barr, and he says that the no basis for FBI's Crossfire Hurricane investigation. More concerning is a whole pattern of evidence to sabotage the presidency. This is what he said to Laura Ingraham on Fox on Thursday. That was the night she put it out there. And I've called Kevin Shipp about this, who is a former CIA counterintelligence expert. He's sterling. And he's honest, and he's a Christian. And I say, listen to this interview and tell me what you think about this. I mean, that doesn't seem like the words of somebody who's going to let that ride. But of course, we have Jeffrey Epstein, who committed suicide, murdered in jail on the second attempt, and that happened. So I have been very negative about Barr, but why did he say this to Laura Ingraham? And if he could have simply told her, listen, Laura, don't ask me about the coup plotters. Because I don't want to say, she probably would have, to get the interview, would have said, okay. But why did he feel like he needed to say the whole pattern of evidence is to sabotage the presidency? That's pretty strong words. Does that sound like a guy that's not going to prosecute these folks on this? I don't know. And the other thing is that, does he have to prosecute in the District of Columbia, which voted 96% for the Hillary Clinton the Hillary Clinton Fraud Foundation, and the Hillary Clinton that had an unprotected server and didn't care because she was taking treasonous bribes. She was using the unprotected server to collect treasonous bribes to a global charity fraud. And President Obama was communicating with her with his own email that wasn't a government email. So, I don't know. Here's George Papadopoulos, who's at the center of this. They're trying to use him with these, these spy warrants and this setup to try to go after Trump. This was a global operation that involved other spy industries. But here we have George Papadopoulos, the former volunteer for the Trump presidential campaign, claims that there is a conspiracy case being built around those who were involved in the coup of candidate and President Trump. This is Papadopoulos, George Papadopoulos. How does he know that? I don't know. But I'm hopeful. I mean, I hope they prosecute people. We don't have any constitution or justice in this country. If the biggest political scandal, the biggest piece of sedition and treason, in my humble opinion, in the history of America, it involved foreign spy agencies, foreign governments. It involved the FBI, DOJ, CIA, NSA. It involved the White House. It involved the entire government to take down a presidential candidate and duly elected president. It didn't work. This means, listen, the Mueller investigation was illegitimately conceived. He said the whole investigation was, unnecessary. It's illegitimate. That means the Mueller investigation was completely illegitimate. So we'll see. I mean, I hope I can be swayed back to thinking that there's actually going to be justice. I mean, Congressman Nunez has 8 basically criminal referrals to the Justice Department. Is that going to work out? I don't know. I mean, have they had a single grand jury where they indicted one of these people that were involved in this coup? No news on that. John Durham, the prosecutor, did have time to go after a guy who threatened Adam Schiff, Congressman Adam Schiff. But I don't know. But we'll talk to Kevin Shipp, who will talk about this and the media propaganda over in the White House press briefing room, and the president fighting back, and the whiners, Jonathan Karl, whining on The View. The president's attacking the mainstream media. I mean, come on, John. You be a big boy. How you went after the president and he put a pie in your face. He called you out for what you were doing, which was, basically an antagonist, a propaganda arm of the Democrat National Party, National Committee. That's what the mainstream press is. Last thing here about voting and Judicial Watch, bless their hearts. I'm going to try to get him on Judicial Watch. Tom Fenton. Judicial Watch sues North Carolina, million inactive voters on the voting rolls. And let me tell you why this is important, because I live here. The last election with Cooper that won the election, he won by 10,000 votes. So you got 1 million people, dead people voting. That's what we're talking about here, basically. And people who moved away, and now they're going to use those people. Right? This is Guilford County, which is I am, Greensboro, and Mecklenburg, which is Charlotte. This Democrats' strongholds. Is that how Democrats cheat with dead voters and the like? The answer to me is yes. They are. That's how they cheat. And that's why they want a mail-in vote campaign, which is why Donald Trump has said in his meetings, which, listen, folks, if you really want to know what's going on, watch these briefings and watch his 76 million Twitter page. He said in the briefing that, mail-in votes, that's so the Democrats can cheat. I want people to show up in person and there'll all be a voter ID. And, you look at Twitter and what the president has done on Twitter. Now 76 million people follow him on Twitter. Do you know that's more than Fox and ABC and NBC and CBS and MSNBC and Washington Post and New York Times and LA Times and Wall Street Journal? That's more than all of them combined. 76 million people. Tune them out. They are lying about the treatment to the coronavirus. Lying. This is a dangerous lie, saying there's bad. You could die with the side effect. That's a lie. Oh, it doesn't work. Lie. Complete and total lie. Follow the president in his Twitter page. Follow the president on his briefings. They're fabulous. You learn more on the briefings than anything. Like, you're going to find out in the press that he ordered millions and millions of doses of hydroxychloroquine. See, check your papers. See if one of your papers, or see if one of the the MSNBC, CNBC, one of these CNN will talk about how he's ordering all these treatments, the zinc, Z-Packs, so you can treat people so they don't have to have a tube and a ventilator shoved down their throat. Follow that. I want to talk to you a little bit about the site. I'm going to wrap it up here just in a minute. I've changed. I don't talk about this off because I don't want to be attacked, but I changed server companies. I was with HostGator. They were awful. To me, awful. Those were the people where I had to set up a secure site instead of HTTP. It's HTTP TPPS secure. If you don't sell anything, you had to have that because you get better rankings with Google and Bing, and better Alexa rankings, and just better traffic to your site for having HTTPS. And they set it up, cost me, I don't know, 130, 40 bucks. We have to send you an email that you've never used before for confirmation. Okay, you can't use my other email? No, it has to be an email you've never used before. Okay, how about admin? Admin at usawatchdog.com. Okay, Bing, click. Yes, this is me. Yes, I want HTTPS. Bing, back to them. And a week later, 40,000 porno linked emails were sent out on HostGator. Of course, they said, oh, we didn't know what. Awful customer service. They didn't know about major terms that I knew, which I'm really not all that smart on the internet. It was awful to get things fixed, awful to get things to work correctly with them, awful for the speed at which the site opened up. They said it was a dedicated server. Okay. The performance was awful. If you look at the news site, you put it, bing, it opens up right up, bam, just like that. Same thing with me working in the back end. Just works fantastic because it's a new server with high security, but super fast. So that's what I've been dealing with. But HostGator, that I would never recommend. I was with them for 11 years, HostGator, and the first 7 years pretty good. First 7, 8 years pretty good. Last 3 or 4 years awful. I moved to a new server. I had a year and a half or so, I don't know, 20 months left on my contract. They wouldn't give me a refund, but you know what? It's worth it. And that's one of the things I've been working on in the back end for a new servers to make the site perform correctly and actually way better than it ever did before. So I would never recommend HostGator personally. I had an awful experience with them, and they were, and when it came time to, hey, listen, you didn't perform, I'd like to refund. Nope, not going to give you a refund. You look at our terms of agreement. Okay, fine. So with that, I just want to let you know what I've been spending some of this, some of the money on. I had to hire people to take that. It was weeks of work to get this thing done, and it took a while, and it took a team of people that I had to hire in New York to do so. But it's so worth it, and I appreciate you guys giving donations to me. I don't want to talk a lot about what I do in the back end. There's all kinds of other stuff. There's security and all kinds of other things that happen in the back end. But that's one of the things that I have been doing and working on. It's finally finished. So you'll see, you probably the last few weeks, you've seen the site opening up faster, performing faster, doing better, pages opening up fast. That's because of the server. It's a new server. And it actually is pretty slick and pretty good. And great. It's fantastic. Thank you very much for your donations. Thanks very much for your comments on usawatchdog.com and also the YouTube channel. For you people on YouTube, just to let you know, that usawatchdog.com gets as many views as it does on YouTube. Now, YouTube, for some reason, doesn't count those views, but if you take a look at usawatchdog.com, there's a much longer write through. If forever you're not, apprised or notified, if you're a subscriber, always go to usawatchdog.com. If they ever deplatform me anywhere else, I will always have usawatchdog.com. A lot of people don't know I have a website. And there's all kinds of information that the write views are longer. The links to most of the stuff are on there. It's something that can't be taken away from me, and it can't be deplatformed. usawatchdog.com for you people on YouTube. And if you ever have on YouTube and you need to find a link, and I say all links on usawatchdog.com, bam, get over there and you can find any link that I have and any offer that somebody is offering, anything like that. And I want to thank you so much for supporting USA Watchdog again with your donations and your comments. Remember, this Easter weekend, Christ is risen. He defeated death. He is our Lord and Savior. This is Super Bowl weekend for Christians. This is what it's all about. Christ, death and resurrection is what it's all about. And it's what makes Christianity and Christ so very special, because he cheated death. He didn't cheat it. He defeated death. And he offers everlasting love and everlasting life for you who believe in Christ. So thank you very much for supporting USA Watchdog. Don't be fearful. Take this time that we have now, this lull, this calm before the storm, whatever, and keep trying to get yourself in a better and better position. All right. Fear not. Protect yourself mentally, physically, above all, spiritually. Fear not. God the Father and the Son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit are all firmly in control. Again, thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com and happy Easter.